All right, so welcome back to Meditations on Mastery to my listening crowd, and welcome Scott Dorman. Scott,
Thank
we're
you,
so
sir.
happy to have you with us here today. Thanks for making the time.
You're welcome.
And for those listening, Scott is a successful businessman. He is a computer programmer, and he is going to be
Sure.
testing for his black belt in Krav Maga martial arts here in September. And he trains with his son Nathan, which is one of the things that I love most about our family at Krav Maga martial arts is fathers and sons training together and stuff. So.
Yes,
With
sir.
that little bit of an introduction, Scott, why don't you tell the crowd a little bit more about your background, maybe what you do for a living, maybe about you and Nathan, and maybe a little bit about your background in the martial arts and how you found us.
Yes, sir. So as you said, I'm a computer programmer. I've been doing that for over 30 years.
Wow.
And I'm fortunate that I get to do something that I love. And I started my own company about 5 or 6 years ago, so I could spend more time with Nathan as he was going through school. And be close to the house and all that. Um, and then, about 3 years ago or so, we found Krav Maga martial arts. I grew up with a background in martial arts as a child and teenager. In fact, I trained Taekwondo, same as you did back in the day. And you know I, I knew the benefits of it, even though as a kid I didn't really understand or recognize what I was learning. And then as Nathan got older, I knew that I wanted to enroll him in a martial art, and my first thought was put him in the same as I learned. And we kind of stopped off at the dojo on a whim. We saw the sign as we were coming home, decided to stop in, check it out. We ended up doing a one-on-one lesson, and Nathan learned KMA combo one, combo two, and front choke defense, and loved it. I mean, he was hooked from the minute he stepped in. He was hooked, and I thought, I liked the environment. It was a good dojo. The philosophy matched my view on what martial arts should be.
Mm.
Uh, and at that time, I just thought we found a really good dojo. And I couldn't have been more wrong, in the sense that I found so much more than just a dojo. In the 3 years that we've been there, um, the big draw for us was, like you said, it's a family program. Nathan wanted to be able to train with me. I wanted to be able to train with him. We've done almost all of our training together. In fact, we're testing for our black belts together as well in September. And that's been a huge draw for us, because we can push each other to do better. I can see how he's progressing so much easier than if I'm not in there with him.
Yeah.
Um, and from there, we led into the leadership program, which has been amazing for him um, as well. And we love it there. It's a great sense of family.
Well, thank you, Scott. We are grateful to have you both. First of all, and second, man, you said so much stuff that I got to decide which part to dig into first. It's all good. And I'm thinking back. I want to real quick just make a comment about you saying, you've how good you are at computer programming, how you love doing computer programming, and how you get to do that. That resonated with me because chapter 7 of my new book, developing your superpowers, is about developing your own unique one, the thing that
Yes, sir.
you were called to do. So I think you spoke to that right there. But then and then you spoke. I really love that you're speaking about the being able to train with Nathan and all, because I do believe that us shifting to a family based program instead of separate kids and separate type program is one of the best changes we've ever made. So I want to get back to that one. But the second thing I want to is because you talked about the fact that you and I both came up in Taekwondo in the '80s, and but I think that when you and I have spoken in the dojo here, you also told me that you even had tried some Taekwondo schools locally for like Nathan and everything before you walked in here. So
Yes,
so
sir.
I thought maybe talk a little bit to the difference in what you perceived, and to obviously you now think Krav Maga martial arts is a superior system. So like what is it that you like better about the program than the Taekwondo?
Sure. Yeah. So on our way, when we stopped in, we had actually come back from a demo class at one of the local Taekwondo schools. Yeah, Nathan enjoyed it. Um, he wanted to sign up for it. In fact, I had filled out the paperwork to enroll him. And after we left your dojo, he looked at me in the car and he's like, I don't want to train anything else. And I think for him, while he enjoyed the class, there wasn't much practical technique that he learned. It was, a lot of movement, a lot of running around, learning how to punch a little bit on a pad, and that was really it. So I think even for him at the age that he was at the time, he recognized that, look, this wasn't even a class. It was one-on-one with one of the instructors in your front office because there was no extra floor space at the time. And it was, I think, 20, 30 minutes maybe. And at the end of that, he had learned some actual practical combatives. He'd learned how to defend against a choke.
Right.
And so even at his age, he could tell the practicality of what he was learning, which I think is also the draw for me, is that
Self-defense.
I could see right away that, just not just how practical it was, but how effective the system is for, especially for kids, because traditional martial arts, as you know, especially Taekwondo, it relies a lot on strength, on just physical strength to be able to throw the kick or the punch against your attacker. Krav Maga doesn't rely as much on that physical strength against your attacker. If you do the technique right, even Nathan, and I outweigh him by quite a bit. I won't say how much, but quite a bit. When he does some of the techniques correctly, like some of the groundwork that we do, he can throw me off him.
Right.
He does the technique correctly. And I outweigh him by a lot. I'm a good foot and a half taller than him right now.
Mhm.
And he can still throw me off
Mhm.
and get out of the situation, which I think for him is really important.
So that's awesome. So you're speaking to the fact that a big piece for you guys of what made us unique and special was the practical self defense of the Krav Maga portion of what we do
Yes.
versus some of the so you made me think about an interesting different point though, which is that what are the things, because my system, Krav Maga martial arts, is actually a little bit different than a normal Krav Maga school as well.
Yes.
We give it a lot of things that you wouldn't find in a normal Krav Maga school. The Krav Maga, because Krav Maga is just the not just, but it's the self protection system,
Mhm.
and then there's other elements to what we believe is an important part of our system here. Maybe you could speak to some of those. What are some of the other things that you like specifically about the Krav Maga martial arts
Yes.
program?
So I liked the blend that it was not just the self-defense from Krav Maga, but that you, based on your prior training through the more traditional martial arts as you grew up, you've pulled in the best of those systems as far as the self-discipline, the uh, self-esteem building, the character building, all of that. So you get that aspect of it, which is sort of the mental and emotional qualities that come along with the traditional martial arts, combined with the practical self-defense and the physicality of Krav Maga. But then it blends some of the techniques from the other martial arts systems as well. So you're learning a variety of, like, a lot of the some of the kicks that we do are Taekwondo kicks, or derived from Taekwondo. We do some groundwork that's derived from Judo, which to me, I grew up having friends that trained other martial arts systems, and we would always spar with each other whenever we could. And as soon as somebody threw a defense or an attack that we couldn't defend against, the whole thing stopped, and we'd break it down and go over what the attack was and what the defense should have been, and work through it. Because to me, that's what makes an effective, not just an effective fighter, but an effective self-protection system. Um, if you only know how to throw kicks, when somebody gets in close, you don't know what to do. If you only know how to do groundwork and you're not on the ground, you're not going to know how to react. And you've blended all of that together, which I really liked.
Well, thank you, Scott. And while I appreciate it that you speaking to all that from that side. I happen to also know enough about you to know that it's probably not the part you value the most for Nathan, though. Like,
Now,
what are the benefits that, like of the things that Nathan has developed over the last 3 years, and that you'd like to see him continue developing as he becomes a black belt in September, for Nathan and yourself? Like, what are the biggest, I call them superpowers in the new book, but we're really talking about the leadership attributes of, characteristics and attributes of a black belt leader. Can you talk to some of those, and specifically what appeals to you, as
yes, sir.
benefit for you and Nathan?
Yes. I think to me, the biggest benefit was the boost in his self-confidence
Mm,
when he first started.
yes.
Being able to do a new technique that he's never seen before, he's never done before, and do it well and do it effectively, is such a huge confidence boost.
Yes.
So there was that. And then, when we first started training, we weren't in the leadership side of things.
Right.
And
Let's stay a second, though. Let's stay a second,
uh-huh.
if you don't mind, on. So you just mentioned one of the superpowers, confidence.
Yes,
How
sir.
is that confidence going to positively affect the rest of Nathan's life?
Oh, he's become a lot more willing to try more things. He's his schoolwork has improved. I mean, there's just so many other values that have bled out from going to the dojo, and boosting that self-confidence, and the self-esteem as well.
That's outstanding. And then for you, how about for you? Because you came with Nathan. I think he was probably your priority, really, when you
Yes.
walked in. But you've probably discovered some superpowers yourself that you're enjoying. What would you say if you had to pick one, like you did for him? What's really, really been beneficial to you?
For me, the probably I'd say two things. One, um, being able to train with him and,
Yeah.
watch him grow, uh, but also the health benefits for me.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, since I started training, and I mean, I had a setback with my knee injury, but through that, I still did as much as I was able, and
Yeah.
came right back into it as soon as I was allowed. But even with that knee injury, the health benefits to me have been phenomenal.
That's great.
I mean, I'm now little over 30 pounds lighter than I was when we started
Wow.
training.
That's outstanding, Scott. So Scott, you also so this is perfect, because when you really speak to the joy of going through the process with Nathan, that is the beginning kind of part of our leadership program and
Mhm.
the way we do leadership, which is what you wanted to start talking about before. So,
Yes,
so,
sir.
uh, so there's a good segue into talking to the Black Belt leadership aspects and program and what that's done for y'all.
Yes. So I think the leadership has boosted his self-confidence as well. And it's allowed him and in some ways pushed him to do things that were outside his comfort zone. Yeah, Nathan's got a much more outgoing personality than I do. He's more extroverted than I am. But I've never been comfortable doing public speaking. It's always been a big issue for me, even though I do it quite a lot now because of
You're a great
work.
output.
Um,
Yeah,
right.
you're doing well. Good job.
And thank you. And I knew the leadership skills that he would learn would boost him in his ability to be a more confident public speaker as he grows older. And I didn't discover it until I was in my 40s.
Mhm.
Uh, Nathan discovered it when he was before he was a teenager.
Mm,
So,
great.
he will have a much longer exposure to those leadership skills, to being able to sharpen his
Yeah.
abilities as a public speaker. I've seen him grow, not just being able to get out and demonstrate techniques during class. I've seen him be able to help run lines and you know do performance demonstrations, all of
Encouraging
that.
the little kids. I've noticed him encouraging the younger kids,
Yes,
which of course is
he
such a
even
big part.
encourages me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, Scott. All right. Well, as we start getting towards the end of this, I guess one of two. I'll give you one of two of my closing questions I usually use. One
Okay.
is if sometimes I'll be talking to the black belts, I'll ask what's the favorite leadership lesson you've been able to apply to the rest of your life from the dojo. That's one. Or the second would be if you were just as a father who's also a student and you just wanted to say some closing remarks to anybody that might be considering making this a part of their life. It, and it's something other than what we've already talked about. What would that be?
Oh gosh.
Either one of those.
So I think from a father perspective, I think I've covered
Yeah.
most of it. It's a great system. The fact that it's family focused is great, um, and it will really, you know, bring those martial arts disciplines to your kids. But as far as leadership lessons, I would probably have to say law of the process
Wow.
is the one that sticks out the most to me, both for myself and Nathan. I mean,
For everybody.
we've done, we'll do techniques now that we're focusing on, like, finding each other's mistakes to
Mhm,
correct.
mhm.
And we'll dig down into nuances, like, hand placement's not quite right, the footwork wasn't quite right, or the things that we did really, really well
Yes.
on it. And then we'll think back to, when we first learned that technique as a white belt, we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
And so being able to watch
Yeah.
how far we've come in some of the techniques, and even some of the newer techniques that are higher ranked, uh, where we'll see it for the first time and immediately be able to recognize, oh, this is just like chest
Exactly.
defense, 1.5 rhythm,
Oh, that's awesome.
something. And we can see how what we've learned earlier applies, and how we can use that to make the new technique better.
That's great,
Um,
Scott. And for
and
those
it's
that are
just
out
how
there,
everything builds.
for the listeners that were listening that didn't know, the law of the process is that excellence happens daily, but not in a day. And of course, I attribute John Maxwell's 21 laws, irrefutable laws of leadership, for that knowledge. But that has become so much a piece of our system here. And you did a great job explaining the way the law of the process works in the system. the fact that, something you learned as a white belt and you don't realize yet you're learning the same footwork that's going to apply to a gun defense years later or whatever.
Yes.
Great stuff. And of course, like all of our leadership lessons, meant to go out of the dojo and into the world, not just for what we do, but applied to everything. Um, and you made me think with your great answer of one final closing question for you. As pertains to that, as pertains to vision and goal setting in or out
Mhm.
of the dojo, what's next for Scott and Nathan?
Uh, I think the vision within the dojo is get our black belts in September, first degree next September, all the way out through second, third, fourth. Nathan wants to either run his own dojo, KMMA dojo, or be a head instructor at one somewhere. Uh, and yeah, for me, I mean, I'll just do whatever I need to support him in those goals within the dojo. Outside the dojo, he's still focused on his photography uh, skills and photography business, and using a lot of the concepts that we've learned through the leadership to apply to that. For me, it's just continuing my own company and growing
Yes.
my company. Um, I think one of the things to me that singularly stands out the most is a couple months ago, Nathan and I were reading through the black belt essays from December's or last September's black belt testing. And we were reading through them, talking about them, and just sort of discussing what concepts were talked about, trying to get prepared for our own black belt essays coming up. And Nathan looked at me at one point and just said, and I had to stop him and ran and got a piece of paper so I could write it down. He said, never give up. This was what he would say to his white belt self.
Ah.
Never give up. Perseverance is the gateway to victory.
Ooh, that's awesome.
And I
Yeah.
just thought for, a preteen
Yeah.
at his age to come up with something that profound on his own,
Yeah.
it really speaks to the leadership qualities and life lessons that he's learned.
Nathan's 12 now.
He was 12. He's about to be 13.
Okay. Awesome. But he's been with us since he was about 9.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And that speaks volumes. And look, Scott, great work. It's been amazing and joyful to watch both you and Nathan grow in the martial arts. To watch Nathan grow as a young man and future black belt leader that's going to make us both proud, and to watch you being such an incredible father to your son and sharing the process with him.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today, and I'll see you probably at the leadership seminar Friday, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll stay. See you then, sir. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. You're welcome.
Great day.
You too. Bye.